ready for takeoff. Air travel has faced a new form of turbulence during the past year, but Rajiv Jain, FCPA, CEO of Mumbai International Airport, maintains a steady focus on adapting to change and planning for recovery. By Susan Muldowney. Key takeaways from this audio article. Rajiv Jain, FCPA, is CEO of Mumbai International Airport Limited, which operates Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj International Airport, the second busiest airport in India. Pre-pandemic, one of Jain's most significant tasks was driving a project to finish constructing a second airport in Mumbai. Jain has had to focus on resetting priorities in order to stem the financial losses incurred due to pandemic-driven travel restrictions. Story begins. The aviation industry was amongst the first to feel the economic impact as COVID-19 swept the globe in the early months of 2020. The imposition of travel restrictions and a wide-scale suspension of flights saw the industry suddenly switch to survival mode. Global passenger numbers fell by more than 5.6 billion in 2020, and the decline in total airport revenues worldwide exceed $104.5 billion US. For Rajiv Jain, FCPA, it felt like the longest year on record. Jain is Chief Executive Officer of Mumbai International Airport Limited, which operates Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj International Airport, the second busiest airport in India after Delhi's. COVID-19 restrictions on domestic and international air travel were implemented across India in March 2020, and the fallout for the airport was immediate. Conserving cash flow is an ongoing challenge in an industry where 2/3 of costs are fixed, no matter how many passengers fly. For the financial year, 9.45 million passengers would have flown through the airport. This compares to 45.9 million the previous financial year. It's a conservative estimate. The pandemic was never expected, and it became clear sometime in March 2020 that it was going to be greater than any challenge we faced in the past, notes Jain. Mumbai International Airport Limited was formed in 2006 with the mandate of modernising and upgrading the airport as a joint venture between Airports Authority of India, owning 26%, and a private consortium led by Indian conglomerate GVK, owning 74%. Since then, the airport has undergone significant transformation, including the addition of an 84-metre-tall, wishbone-shaped air traffic control tower. Then there's a modernisation of a second air terminal, known as T2, with a design that draws inspiration from India's national bird, the peacock. In 2017, the joint venture won a bid to build Navi Mumbai International Airport, a second airport for a city of 20 million people that's growing by 5% year on year. It will be the larger of the two airports and will be located approximately 35 kilometres from the original airport, in Navi Mumbai, a satellite city of the Mumbai metropolis. Navi Mumbai is home to mega infrastructure projects and a burgeoning real estate market since its creation in the early 1970s. The airport was originally expected to open in 2021, but the deadline has now been pushed back to 2023-24. Jain acknowledges that COVID-19 has been a significant stumbling block for the Navi project, but is hopeful that it will not need to be postponed any further. There may be a surge in demand for travel much earlier than we are expecting, he says. A lot of the land development work has been done. We've cut hills and filled the site. I think it will be the best airport in India because of its unique location. Plus, the city is growing around that area. It's the future of Mumbai. Jain started his career as a management trainee with the MP Birla Group, before moving into the telecom and aluminium manufacturing industries. He joined Mumbai International Airport Limited in 2006 as the company's first employee. "I was always in infrastructure, and an airport is a form of infrastructure, although it is quite different to running manufacturing facilities because there is a much greater customer aspect," says Jane. "I was approached for the role and I thought it would be an exciting new sector for me. I've enjoyed the journey." This journey took an unexpected turn when COVID-19 changed the course of 2020. Between April and August last year, the airport's international passenger numbers plummeted by 96% from the previous year, and domestic numbers dropped by 94% over the same period, despite local travel bans being lifted in May. Pre-pandemic, getting the Navi Mumbai Airport project off the ground was among the greatest challenges for Jane. When the severity of the pandemic became clear in March last year, his efforts turned to stemming the flow of financial losses. Fixed costs, such as interest, utilities, maintenance, and employee expenses, represent 80% of airport operating expenses. Jane says operating costs have reduced by only 12% since the beginning of the pandemic, while aeronautical and non-aeronautical revenue dropped by 70%. "Airports are lumpy investments," says Jane. "There's a lot of capital expenditure at the beginning. Interest repayments present cash flow issues, and we're not contemplating how to surmount this issue because we have to do something to infuse cash so that operations can remain ongoing." To preserve cash flow, the salaries of approximately 5,500 airport contract workers and around 1,500 staff were suspended for 2 months. "We've not sacked any workers, but they're getting reduced hours and wages," says Jane. "I expect the reduction in hours to remain for some time because we've temporarily closed Terminal 1 due to low traffic. This has been another way to reduce expenses," he adds. "There is no reason to incur operating costs like utilities and power at the terminal. We cut our electricity consumption by 60% by closing it. We've also used dynamic lighting and switched off air conditioning across the airport wherever possible. Once traffic comes back to normal, or even 70%, I think all workers will resume normal hours and wages," he says. The air cargo business has managed to cushion much of the economic impact. It has continued to perform comparatively well, largely due to the urgent need for medical and emergency supplies throughout the crisis. Between April and August 2020, it has handled more than 169,000 tons of cargo. "We focused on cargo during this time and managed quite a large quantity, which has supported us very well. We're expecting that, by year-end, we'll have reached about 72% of cargo capacity, based on last year's numbers. So we anticipate our revenue from cargo will be 10% lower than it was last year," says Jane. In August 2020, it was announced that Mumbai International Airport Limited would be sold to Indian infrastructure giant Adani Group, making it the country's largest airport operator after the GMR Group, which operates Delhi and Hyderabad airports. Jane says the acquisition by Adani will provide the airport operation with greater liquidity and will make funding for Navi Mumbai Airport easier to access. Cash flow has also been improved with the return of domestic flights. By September 2020, Indian Airlines were allowed to operate at 60% capacity, but Jane notes that international travel will be a challenge, with every country having its own COVID-19 travel restrictions. The airport has been quick to respond to the resumption of domestic travel, with a number of measures to address customer safety and peace of mind. A COVID-19 testing facility was launched, available for all arriving passengers, and social distancing is encouraged through distinctive signage. Seating arrangements at the food court and the terminal building have also been reshuffled to promote a safe physical distance. The airport has put in place a QR code-enabled contactless check-in mechanism, which allows passengers to use their mobile phones to remotely operate check-in and bag drop kiosks for printing boarding passes and bag tags. This is the first airport in India that has an airport health accreditation from Airports Council International for dealing with COVID, says Jane. These steps that we've taken are to instill a sense of confidence in passengers that it is safe to fly. Every month there's an improvement. Despite signs of growth, Jane expects a challenging road to recovery. The International Air Transport Association predicts global passenger traffic will not return to pre-COVID-19 levels until 2024. However, with Asia-Pacific being a growth market, Jane says that the estimated recovery period is closer to 3 years. In India, the expectation is that in 2 to 3 years we will reach pre-COVID-19 levels of travel. But it is difficult to predict, says Jane. We will have to be ready with cash so that we can be sustainable.